That's good. Usually I can't do it.
Off your cell phones or silence them. Ask Mr. Hurston for an invocation. If those would like to join, please stand.
Shall we pray? Dear gracious Heavenly Father, we take this time to praise your holy name, and we just thank you for all that you do here at the airport. And we come together as an airport authority, and we ask for continued hedge of protection. Please grant us wisdom, guidance, discernment, increased IQ that we consider our monthly business. And we just once again thank you give you all the glory and all the praise that occurs here at the airport. In Christ's name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Thank you. Pledge of Allegiance, Paul.
Join me in the pledge.
I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. That was a Biden moment. They moved the flag from there.
I saw that. I saw that.
Yeah, I thought I jumped the comment. Okay, roll call, please.
Morning, everyone.
Morning.
Mr. Andrews?
Here.
Mrs. Oliver?
Here.
Mr. Carr?
Present.
Mr. Hanzik?
Here.
Mr. Parrish?
Here.
Mr. Hurston?
Present.
Mrs. Coppola?
Here.
Thank you.
Okay, I also like to acknowledge County Commissioner Mr. Doherty in the back, attending our meeting. Different face. Okay, anyone wishing to address the Airport Authority Board on an agenda item? The agenda item and all that kind of stuff has been on the website. Chair recognizes Stan Smith.
Morning. Stan Smith, current Director of Aviation and Thunderbird Project Officer for the Florida International Air Show. Let me take you back about 10 years. I believe the date is correct. Front page of the USA Today, there was the Punta Gorda Airport. Known as that particular year, there were 10 airports named as best air shows in the nation. The air show here, Florida International Air Show at Punta Gorda, was one of them. And I think we're going to have a great air show again this year. We have the Thunderbirds coming back, Patty Wagstaff. We have military assets that are getting in contact with us. That has not happened in the past for a little while, but they are all coming back. And so we're going to have a great air show. As you know, everybody that works at the air show and gets the air show up and running, we're all volunteers, all zeros for our pay, no digits. And we're happy to do it for the people of Southwest Florida, Charlotte County. A lot of our volunteers, about 400 to 500, come from Charlotte County here. We are very appreciative of the staff, James, working with the air show. They do a great job. We hope that the board will also, as they always have, get on board and be sponsors once again. And thank you very much for the support you've given in the past and hopefully in the future.
Thank you, Stan.
Thank you for your hard work.
Okay, we'll address the air show issue later on the agenda. It's not an issue, but the subject. Any additions or deletions to the agenda, Mr. Parrish?
None.
None? Moving on, employee recognition. Who's going to start? Mr. LaRoque.
Morning, Commissioners. Mr. Parrish, I'd like to bring up George Harper from RVA. This is a little bit different this time for employee recognition. You all know that we have a contract tower. The tower here is in the FAA's contract tower program.
Come on up, George.
Don't be shy. And we know that we have the best tower group in the country, we think, in the world probably. We deal with them on a day-to-day basis. We get compliments from people coming in that fly in. They're the first ones that people get to talk to when they fly in here. Back in 2019, they won Tower of the Year out of 102 RVA towers in the country. Again, 2022, they have now been awarded, again, Tower of the Year for 2022. And I'm going to let George talk a little bit about what goes into that. One thing I'd like to mention that just shows their dedication to the airport here, the morning of September 29th, the day after the hurricane, one of the first voices I heard that morning was Rich Reed up in the tower, asking what he could do to help out, try to get the tower back up and running when we didn't even know who was going to make it in on our staff at that point. So that shows the dedication that they have to the airport and making sure we have a safe operation here.
Raymond, why don't you maybe explain what the contract control tower program is, not only for the folks that are here, but for all the folks that are watching us on YouTube.
So the contract tower program provides air traffic control operators at airports that do not have FAA towers. And many times that contract tower allows us to have controllers that we wouldn't qualify for under the FAA program. And a lot of times they do the job better with less people, in my opinion. And we're happy to be a part of that program that started back when the tower opened here in 2012 and continues today with RVA.
And I will say I met RVA's CEO at AAAE, and she said they never award this award twice. But she said going through the applications, there was no way they couldn't award it to Punta Gorda a second time. So.
That's wonderful.
And I think George has some more news to share as well. Go ahead, George.
Hello to the board. My first chance to get to say hi to you guys in person. I appreciate it. Mr. Parrish, as you know from many emails, your team is amazing. We work hand in hand with Ray, Gary, now Josh. Mike has been a great help. We've got a great tower team. We've got a great team of controllers. They're dedicated. They're a bunch of veterans. They're a bunch of professionals. And that's a key ingredient. You add to that key ingredient the team we have here at the airport to work with. It's kind of hard to fail. But it's been a great ride. We work hard, as Ray had mentioned. Every year, all the contract towers put out pilot surveys so we can get input from the public. And that's designed to assist us in any areas that we can improve on. It's real easy to listen to your own tapes and say, we did great. But to be able to get the input anonymously from the users is outstanding. And at this airport here, the airport authority assists us in circulating these evaluations. Many airports get 35, 40, 50 inputs a year. It's not easy to get someone to take the time to write out an evaluation. But with their assistance and circulation, we receive somewhere between 90 and 120 returns a year. And there's 10 questions. Each are rated, 1 through 5. And we average 4.98 out of all 10 questions. Out of 1,000 possible points on the SKU, we earn 974 points. 800 points is considered excellent. So, so obviously our main job is customer service, and that's what we're pushing to continue with. In addition to the great award that we did get, and getting it twice in 3 years, as Mr. Parrish had mentioned, is pretty much unprecedented, so we're pretty proud of that. But we were also just officially notified we won the Earl F. Ward Memorial Achievement Award. This is from ATCA nationally, and that's for tower team contribution to air traffic control. This was tied in with both Naples and Pagefield for the response efforts, obviously, after Hurricane Ian. As Ray had mentioned, we had controllers here 9 a.m. the very next morning. It's the third major hurricane or major storm we've had in this area in a row where our air traffic control facility was the first one reopened. We work hard to maintain the level of service to our community, We know that, them being able to get in and out is key. Our guys making it in when there's no power and there's nothing going around. People didn't know if they were going to have enough gas to drive home. The airport stepped up and made sure that, my guys got in, they would get them home and back the next day. So I want to thank you guys for your support. Mr. Parrish, you and your team, outstanding as always. We couldn't do it without you guys, and I couldn't be a happier tower manager than at the airport I'm at with all the assistance and time that we have here. So thank you guys for the acknowledgement on this platform.
Thank you, George. I'm going to go a little bit out of order. I'm going to bring up Mike Timms and Katie Gutzler, please. So recently, we had some changes in the credentialing office, and Katie, you might recognize from the front office at the administration building. Katie has been promoted to credentialing specialist and is now handling all of the badging and credentialing duties that go along with that. In conjunction with that, Mike Timms has been promoted to manager of safety and security, increasing his role and responsibility for safety and security here at the airport. He's now overseeing the credentialing office, and also, should we have to continue with the employee screening requirement, he'll be overseeing that as well. So I just wanted to recognize them for their
Well as
recent promotion.
SMS and
SMS, yeah, all the safety and security duties for the airport. Congratulations.
congratulations.
All right.
All right, Jax.
Hey, good morning, Ward, everyone. And thank you for the opportunity to kind of recognize some of our employees. I would like to take the opportunity today to recognize Seth Emmel and Ajani Swavey. I'll start off with Seth here. He was recently promoted to the Airside Operations Assistant Manager. And Seth's been with us for about 2 years now. And in that time, he has excelled in his understanding and application of airport operations. Seth's attained his non-federal weather observer certification and taken on the role as the airport's wildlife coordinator. In Seth's time here, he has demonstrated, to be a very dependable and respected leader amongst airport staff. So if you could please join me congratulating Seth Emmel. And secondly, I have here next to me Ajani Swavey. I wanted to recognize one of our airside operations technicians, as he has just recently attained his non-federal weather observer certification. For anyone who doesn't know, when the airport has weather equipment failure after air traffic control hours, pilots aren't able to come into the airport and land. They have to divert to other airports. This certification allows Ajani to manually take observations and provide that information to pilots, and this directly prevents diversions and allows passengers to travel through Punta Gorda. This certification process is particularly difficult to attain, so this is just a testament to Ajani's dedication and perseverance. So we'd like to congratulate Ajani Swavey. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Okay, we're not done. I'm going to talk a little bit about a couple of our staff members and recognize them. We're members of the Florida Airport Council, which is the organization of all the airports in Florida. They have annual meetings of their management people. Mr. Parrish was honored with the Florida Airports Council Aviation Leadership Award this year in recognition for his outstanding leadership on the board of directors of FAC. I believe he was on there for about 7 years or so. And he was very involved in a lot of their committees and a lot of the management of the organization and what goes on in FAC as far as legislation and that type of things with the Florida Department of Transportation and also on to the Washington level. So with that, congratulations. Add that to your credentials. And we also have another recognition. I'd like to recognize Chad Rossi, who was elected vice chair of FACS, which means he will probably be president next year. if he's voted in. Chad came to us in 2022 as Chief Administration Officer on our staff, and he's been on FAC for about 7 years also. He's serving on the council's chair of the state of Florida Aviation Committee, and he's the council's Federal Affairs Committeeman also. And it's great to see our leadership get involved in both the state and national level of the organizations, because that provides a lot of information and input, and it provides input from our airport into both the state organization and a national organization representing not only our local interests, but the interests of the airport industry as a whole across the country. So congratulations to both of you.
So just want to say that Chad went on to the executive committee last year. My plan was to go on this year, but then I hired him, and you can't have two people from the same airport on the executive committee, so I had to step down.
Well, it might be, we don't know, it might be for the better.
Well, I could have fired him.
Yeah.
That's why you hired him.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, Daryl, you're not supposed to say this.
Soldier used to be able to buy the soldier you have.
All right, moving on. Agenda item 8, consent agenda. And, what? Oh, you want to say something? I can recognize. Oh. All right, consent agenda. Chair will entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Second that, Mr. Chairman.
Any further discussion? Well, you don't have a discussion. So all those in favor of approving the consent agenda, say aye.
Aye.
Right. Motion carried. All right. We're going to go into the public hearing. We did have a workshop on our budget about a week ago or so. So, Mr. Parrish, you want to kind of go over the budget briefly?
Sure. So there have been, there's only been one significant change to the budget as was presented last at our workshop. It's not in revenues, unfortunately. If you go to the next page, it's in expenses and it's in insurance. We did get our insurance rates. We were expecting a 30% increase. So this is a combination of reassessment of all our buildings and a rate increase. So you can see it went from about a $500,000 last year to a little over $1 million this year. We are still searching for other alternatives, but right now I don't see any on the horizon. Next year we will definitely shop it, but I would say that that's probably reasonable based on the reevaluation of building costs. Unfortunately, it's a lot more than we wanted. Still, you know, we have an operating gain of 3.06, almost a little over $3 million. If you go to the next slide and you go below the line, you'll see that, you know, beyond the $3 million, we're going to collect almost $4 million in PFCs, $1.5 million in CFCs, and then interest on our investments of almost $1.3 million. So a total non-operating revenue of $6.7 million. So combine that with the $3 million, it's $9.8 million. Now, all of the PFCs are dedicated to projects, so they go into the bank and then out of the bank, but still doing really well. That was the only change, so unless there's...
The insurance carriers, are they our historic carriers for the most part? Because we've had pretty good luck with them.
Yeah, FMIT they're one of the largest municipal insurers in the state. They're a very good company to work with. We've been with them for a long time. I think the county is with them, the city is with them, city of Sanibel, Fort Myers. So they're big in the state. They have been giving back money every year for the last 8 years. Last year was not a good year.
Are there any questions from the board on the tentative budget? I'll solicit anything. I'll solicit any citizen input. I might remind everybody that's here and watching that all this, the entire budget information is on our website. You can go into it, into a lot of detail if you like. This is the first public hearing, and then at the next board meeting, we will approve it. Okay, seeing no public input, so I'll need a motion to adopt the tentative budget.
Move approval?
I'll second that, Mr. Chairman, as presented.
The chair has a motion and a second to adopt the tentative budget for fiscal year 2023-2024. Hearing no further discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, same sign. Motion carried unanimous.
Okay, I do want to state one thing just for the record. There was a slide that showed a possible increase in parking of $1 an hour. That was $1 a day, not an hour. So just, and that's not in the budget, but that may be coming back. But it was put in the paper as $1 an hour. I said $1 an hour. No one's going to increase parking $24 a day, but
Did they retract it?
we checked, we fixed it. It was our mistake. We fixed it on our website, but.
Okay, Secretary Treasurer's report, Mrs. Coppola.
Good morning, everybody. Thank you for being here, and I will defer to Mr. Parrish for the accounts receivable, income statement, and balance sheet, please.
So as we usually do, we put up a financial review, kind of just putting everything on one page, a little bit easier to see. You can see for the month of June, our revenues were down slightly and our expenses were down slightly more. Most of that's fuel sales and the cost of goods, but everything's on track. We're still on track for the year to make an operating gain of slightly over $4 million. So I think everything's looking good. We go to accounts receivables. We are working with a few tenants. We are going to put together a payment plan for New World Trade. They've had difficulties with their manufacturing plant in Haiti, and so we're going to try and get them on track by March, April of next year. Just put them on a payment plan to pay down the almost $20,000. And enterprise rental cars, just a timing issue with them. So no one issue there. And the balance sheet continues to grow as we put new buildings on that are coming back from the hurricane. The balance sheet is going up, and right now total assets are about $172,652,000.
It should be noted that financials represent both May and June,
Yes.
because we didn't have a meeting in May. Okay. Any questions?
We'll file up for audit. Thank you.
We don't need a motion for that, do we?
No.
I don't think so. Agenda item 12, liaison reports. I checked with our representative from Punta Gorda City Council, Bill Dryberg. He's not here today, and there's nothing on the City Council agenda that would be of affecting the airport. Mr. Andrews, County Commissioners.
Spoken to Commissioner Doherty in a little bit, and he's filled me in that county is doing exactly what we're doing, working on the budget. So there's not anything to report at this time.
Okay, Mr. Hurston, MPO.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My last meeting was July 17th for the MPO. It was a meeting held in Murdoch. I do have my package with me if anybody would like to see it. Excuse me while I rustle through my papers here, but I think the main issue that we went through was basically the kind of preliminary work of our 2050 work program. We hired a consultant to work on the socio-economic data, but that was pretty well the big headline item for that meeting. And also, I attended a MPOAC meeting up in Murdoch, in Orlando on July 27th. And as Commissioner Andrews knows, we have several reports from the Federal Highway Administration, Florida DOT, and other type committees. And it was pretty well a standard meeting, nothing earth-shaking there at that meeting. But I'd also like to say that the meeting with the MPO went kind of fast because the commissioners had, I think, a budget hearing at 7 o'clock that night. So we kind of moved along pretty fast. But other than that, nothing to report.
Sounds good.
Thank you. Mrs. Coppola, community involvement.
Well, I haven't had much community involvement because I was on vacation in Bar Harbor, Maine, which is the most beautiful place I've ever seen. And if they didn't tell me how high the snow was in the winter, I'd probably move there. But when they told me about the snow, I kind of backed off. A beautiful place, absolutely gorgeous, glorious. Now, Allegiant flies directly to Bar Harbor. We bought the tickets before and had to drive from Vermont up. But anyways, I would absolutely recommend going up there. If you've never seen Maine, it's absolutely beautiful. And that's about all. I have a brand new great-grandson, if anybody's interested. I saw him last night. He's cute.
It's not Amy's, I hope.
No. Okay. It's my grandson.
Okay, Mrs. Oliver, state.
Yes, thank you. So the legislators will be going back for committee week starting in September, and I know that we are finalizing our appropriation requests, so we'll have more to talk about during that section. But other than that, I don't have much. If Mr. Parrish has anything to report from
No,
Council?
FAC has started our weekly calls on state priorities, trying to get some modifications to a few laws that passed last year to protect airports. And we are also working, the feds are on vacation right now, so we had our congressman in this week talking to him about reauthorization for the FAA. Both the House and the Senate have passed tentative bills, but they have to go into conference and get them to look somewhat the same. And hopefully that will get to the president. But we are expecting at least one, if not multiple, continuing resolutions to keep the FAA operating, which will delay grant issuance because they have to have at least 6 months of authorization before they can issue grants. So we'll keep you updated. I don't think we'll be in the situation we were last time where we had 21 continuing resolutions. No. That's all I have.
Okay. Our attorney's report. Good morning.
I have a number of matters that are currently on our plate. I'm pleased to advise that I get to work with everybody here, and it's amazing. I have communication with so many staff members every day, but Gary and I have been working on completing the row hangar 2 swap. This is the one where the hurricane destroyed a hangar. I came up with this bright idea to move them temporarily, and then we're building another one. I'm pleased to advise you that phase 1 of that has happened. I think they're successfully moved or completing their move now. We are working on some modifications to the agreement. They'd like an upgrade in their electrical. We'd like to tear down their old building earlier. Seems like we're working in that process, and it's moving very slowly. Mr. Esch is the leader of row hangar 2, and he has been more than laudatory as to us, both myself, Gary, and others that are assisting in that process. This truly is, although a cliche, a win-win for everybody and working well.
Hold on a second. Okay, I think Richard's done. You may continue. Thank you.
Working with Brett, and I have to give some congratulations to Ron. We have now finally completed the final payoff of JL relative to the General Aviation Center. This has been a long process. I believe the final payout is going out this week. The process has been completed. Set-offs, as you know, this was attorneys flying from day one in this building, mostly because of the economy at the time. But it is now successfully completed, and we've paid everybody off, made sure the lien orders are paid, or anybody that wanted to lien, and gotten a release from the bond, and we're paying all of those individuals, and I think those checks are going out Friday, so I'm pleased to advise that that is now completed without any litigation. We have a fairly complex matter that is working, that I met with Ray about, associated with the TSA, and this is the employee security screening that was brought up, characterized as a mess. It's extremely complicated process where the TSA is basically going to require the airports to screen their employees as they enter. Frankly, the details of it are probably better explained by Ray. I've been asked to draft a reconsideration letter to the TSA. It's a lengthy process. I completed my first draft yesterday and provided it to Ray, and it's under consideration now by him and James for that purpose. James is working on a new contract relative to facial recognition of employees and the process. I'm not sure exactly how the security system works, but it's a new one. We were provided with a rather lengthy agreement associated with that. We have some concerns about it. Frankly, I think that the agreement was copied from somebody else. We didn't prepare it. I reviewed it. It didn't seem necessarily applicable, but modifications have gone back. As everyone's aware from the media, we are engaged with the Charlotte County Public Schools and CTC relative to the MOU. I was requested to draft. Kaylee has been extremely engaged in that, along with James, in helping me put together a format, which we completed last Friday. It was provided to James, I think, Monday for presentation to the school for school system for input. Thank you. I think we're going to have a great working continue to have a great working relationship with them under the MOU. Remember, it's a memorandum of understanding. It's something both sides can remove themselves from at any time, but it's really one understanding of where we're at, where the other side's at. Working with Kayla, we also developed what I'll call a working paper. There was what I'll call a misheadline in the newspaper that wasn't appropriate. As a result, we've worked up a position associated with this. It'll be posted on our website and put out elsewhere. The relationship between the school and us continues to be extremely amicable, and everybody working towards that same process. As many of you know, I work both for the Air Show and the Airport Authority. It's always a dancing in a minefield. Everybody's waived the conflict associated with that. As things get closer, a little bits of tension arise, I tend to continue to get engaged or stay engaged in that in order, not as a mediator, but somebody just trying to work the process forward. As James is aware and the Air Show is aware, I do that on a pro bono basis. I don't charge anybody for it, although it's probably one of the most tedious things I have to do. But nonetheless, that is progressing well, and I think we're going to have a presentation about that later on the decisions that have been made associated with that. Can't tell you the number of other smaller matters that exist, but those are the highlights.
Wow, been busy.
Any questions of our legal counsel from the board?
No, sounds
Good,
excellent.
we just saved $400. I don't know what we need charges. All right, moving on, CEO report.
Good morning.
Development update.
Thank you. So I'm going to run through these real fast. If you guys have any questions, we continue to work on the PFC applications and amendments. I think we have those approved, and we're working on closing out. We have to do an amendment to close them out, so we're closing out PFC application 1, amending 2, amending 3, and then 4 is our new one that's now underway. Keep in mind, we have to have a PFC approval before we can collect, so it was one of those things where we've been trying to push this through, because our collection authority would have run out probably next month, so glad we got that done. And we started this in December, so it's a long process. Even though it's been shortened to 30 days, it's still a 6-month process. Taxiway Alpha and Charlie Delta intersection improvements, we're soliciting consultants. That's actually on the agenda today. The ALP update, we're just, it's a pen and ink update where we're updating what's happened over the last few years, as well as adding the north development area on there so it looks more like what we're currently building. Things that are in design, I think the only thing that is maybe newer to this list is the fuel farm security improvements. It's a new access road and gates and access control, so the fuel area meets all the FAA and TSA requirements. North side infrastructure is just a development on the north side to get some utilities and roadway access to the new hangars that are on. One is on the agenda today. And the other is the CTC Tech facility is an ongoing design project, and we will be discussing that later. Inline baggage system is on the agenda today. The M&O facility is on the agenda today. New taxiway Gulf is starting construction end of this month. That'll be the taxiway that connects the GA ramp all the way to taxiway Alpha and the end of 422. So that'll shorten that taxi back and forth and also eliminate one runway crossing or two runway crossings if you need to get to 22 or 4. I think, like I said, the rest of those are on the agenda. So construction, the roadway network improvements are done. We're closing that out. The 10 60 by 60s opened this week. The T-hanger building and the box hangars will be opening next month. They're doing final paving. We had power brought in this week, and they'll be paving in the next few days or next few weeks. 422, we finally finished that up. We had some edge reconstruction we had to do, and that's now done, and I think we're going to be closing that out. The last piece of the 422 project is a new airfield lighting and control system. Our existing system was installed in 2006, and we can no longer get parts for it, so we're putting in a new system. It was originally part of the 422 project, but the FAA changed their rules, and we now have to bid them separately. So we did bid that separately, and that's going into that grant and will be installed in the next 3 or 4 months, maybe 6. Getting the parts are the issue, even though these are new parts. The self-serve, part of our shutdown this week with power, if any of you were aware of that, we had to shut down about half the airport and run it on generator while we brought in tapped into the power for the self-serve facility as well as the 2 new hangars. So that is all underway. Now I think everything for the self-serve facility is there. We just have to move the tanks, and that's scheduled. And taxiway Delta is back open. We'll shut it down a couple of more times to finish up some sodding and to finish the painting. We have to put down temporary paint, then we go back and paint in 30 days. And then we could start the closing of that project. So.
Okay, a couple of questions.
Sure.
The ALP update and somewhat connected to the commercial terminal expansion. I talked with the planners this morning. Do we need to take a look? I know it's early, but the new, it's called Advanced Air Mobility, which are going to be the electric air taxis that are going to be flying around. That it's kind of interesting. I think Florida is going to be a prime place for these. These are going to be electric air taxis. You don't need a license to fly them. A whole 4 people, and I think Florida is going to be a great place for them because you can move from, say, Punta Gorda to Fort Lauderdale on these things, or Miami, and it's going to really confuse the airspace, but that's another issue. But I think we need to at least look at marking an X somewhere that we're going to reserve because it takes so long to get things on an airport layout plan. Maybe we just need to, I'd like to see the planners look at that, and it may not happen my tenure or my lifetime even, but it's coming. I'm just throwing that out for what it is. You may have a different opinion. You're probably closer to it than I am, but.
So I remember back in the early 2000s, the VLJs were going to darken the sky because
Yeah,
everybody
regional
was
jets.
going to have a under $1 million jet. And I really see this as another one of those. I think ultimately someday there will be. I don't consider them yet anything different than a helicopter. And here's the real issue. We don't have the power to recharge them available.
That's true.
It's just not there. The requirements that they need to recharge in the 20 minutes so they can get back up and fly back to Fort Lauderdale, we don't have. Florida Power and Light can't supply it today in Punta Gorda. So it's an issue that we're very aware of. We're very cognizant of the potential, but I think the infrastructure has to develop around it before we're going to see it.
I just think it needs to make sure it's being addressed, because it's going to, if it happens, I think Florida's a good market for it, but.
Florida will be a market for it.
Yeah.
I would not want to be in a pilotless helicopter when there's thunderstorms.
No, you're exactly right. And the other one is, as the planners get into the expansion of the terminal building, I'm talking beyond the TSA area, which is pretty well set. And I think I brought this up before, that as they get into the planning process, we need to know what the life expectancy is going to be, whatever that improvement is. I know I've seen the early stuff, and what's the life expectancy, and then what's the vision after that. We need to put something in place, I think, that may not occur to 20 years from now. It may take 20 years to do it. None of us are probably going to be around in these positions at that point in time. Maybe some of the youngsters out there might be, but we need to look, I think the planners need to look beyond that. Do we tear everything down that we got and start anew, or do we move somewhere else? I know it's expensive. It's kind of interesting. I was looking at Asheville, North Carolina. Now, I understand they got 6 carriers, but they do in Plain about the same number of folks we do, and they're off to a new $400 million terminal expansion. I don't know how they're going to afford to pay it, but
I already called Lou and asked him.
What'd he say?
He's not sure either.
But I think they're selling bonds and all that. And I know that there are some tricks to getting that financing done, but our business model is working. But I'm talking down the road, because sometimes it takes 20 years to build a new expensive facility. And we may need it. Who knows what's going to be here 20 years from now. But we just need to at least recognize it and address it somewhat.
I think that we're going to do a master plan update, a real, not just a pen and ink ALP update, but a true master plan update in the next 3 years.
And
So
that needs to be a
the
work
time
item.
that we work on that.
Just want everybody to be kind of thinking about that kind of stuff. Okay, let's see.
Marketing? Oh, you have any other questions on development? Okay.
Anybody else got any questions on the project development?
Yes, sir.
Seeing none, we'll move on to marketing update. Ms. Miller.
Morning, Commissioners. I put in our marketing report 2 months of communications and activities that's been going on. So as Commissioner Coppola said, the new Bangor flight was announced, which is awesome, and we're very excited about that. We also have a lot of new content we've been putting on the Buzz, which is our Buzz blog page, and we also have a newsletter that goes to 40-some thousand people that have been passengers and local folks, and we send out news to them once or twice a month. We try to over-communicate with them so they don't unsubscribe, so we have a really good history with that. We've been putting out great content about our local tourism aspects and community as that ties in with our terminal advertising partners. So there's lots of great communications on that front. And we're also going to kind of twist to highlighting more of our tenants, our local flight schools here at PGD, as well as other tenants that are here, so that we can continue to share the good news about what's going on here at PGD. So our search engine optimization, that's one of the things we use in the website world to kind of get the word out about where we are all over the country, all over the world. And so that's something we've been focusing more on. And as we move forward, we'll be doing more national advertising in markets where Allegiant flies and potential markets in kind of the Google AdWords space. So people will be able to find us, learn more about our area, tourism, and the airport on a national level. So we're going to be focusing on that in the next couple months as well. And next month, hopefully we'll have a report and a preview of Curtis the Hawk. The costume is being completed as we speak, and we're working on the plush collectible Curtis 8-inch doll. And we'll be doing some other promotional items and things like that. So next month, I'll provide you a preview of what that plan's going to look like and how we're going to roll out Curtis the Hawk.
So Curtis is going to make his official debut at the air show?
At the air show, I mean, we'll hopefully have the costume together before that, but we want to shoot some possibly promo videos and things like that. Figure out how we can use Curtis to communicate about the love of aviation here locally and maybe some travel tips and things like that. So Curtis is going to have many roles, and we're just narrowing down what exactly those are going to be so that our primary Curtis mascot, person that's inside the costume, isn't too busy. We got to work on his schedule.
I hope it's air conditioned.
Yes, there are cool packs in there. And that is another thing. We don't want to schedule Curtis in the summer too much and be realistic about
So
scheduling
now-
Curtis in the fall and the winter.
So now our ads for new employees, you know, where it says recommended AAE or master, it's also college mascot. If you've been a college mascot, you move up on the list, so.
Yeah, we're not
So
going
I
to.
understand your brother.
Oh, yeah. Arrow the Astro Cat.
There we go.
We're not going to incur any out-of-title pay for whoever this individual
No,
is. are we?
absolutely not. This is all voluntary time.
I might mention, Gail, you may not be aware of it, but it was either on Facebook or, I don't read Nextdoor, but I get informed about it. Somebody said that they've never used the Punta Gorda airport and wonder what it was like. And as of this morning, there are over 327 responses to that, all saying it's a great airport, we love using it, and don't mess with us. So it's kind of interesting how people respond to that stuff.
Community support is amazing.
Yeah.
Or there's a touch of negative, hundreds of people respond with
They
positive.
come to our support.
Yeah. We appreciate that. Thank you.
Okay. Mr. Duncan, aviation report.
Yes, good morning. I just recognize that there may be an error in this first slide. It indicates it's July 2022. I think the numbers are correct. I think we just have it titled incorrectly. But as memory serves me correctly, July was a busy month. Our flight ops are up despite of the summer thunderstorms. So I apologize for that error. Next slide. Employments, however, were down in July, approximately calendar year 2022. We had 123,000 employments, and this year in 2023, we had 100. I apologize. I'm looking at we had 168,000 in July of 23, and down from 177,000 from July of 2022. Right, the calendar year, we're tracking just about 1% down total, and that again, it falls into the category that Allegiant is having challenges, as all other airlines, with their pilot shortage. They have enough airplanes, they just need to finalize the deal with their pilots union, and we foresee seeing employments going up after that point. Fuel sales. For avgas out of the truck, sales were down from the previous July. We sold about 5,100 gallons. For avgas self-serve, though, We continue to see this go up. It's the best deal for our community to get avgas. And as Mr. Parrish indicated, soon we'll be installing a second avgas self-serve station on airport. So yeah, we encourage everybody to use it that's on airport, including our transient pilots. Jet A gallons sold for the month was up to 48,917 gallons, up about 10,000 gallons from the previous July. So we're always encouraged to see that. And our fuel from our commercial fueling was just about the same as the previous year, July.
Yeah, one thing to note that Allegiant is, they're taking more fuel, but they're coming in with more fuel because of the thunderstorms. They're ferrying in a little bit of extra fuel in case they have to circle or divert. So summer, even though we're down, I think that's why you're seeing almost the same number of gallons sold, just because of the weather.
Okay.
All right, next in your packet is a draft purchasing manual. We've had Chad and staff, Gary, going through our existing purchasing manual, and basically this is a 100% rewrite of the manual. I wanted to give it to the board to review for a month, bring back questions. This is now up to date with all current state statutes, federal procurement statutes. So it is a complete rewrite. So there's no red line markup because what we had was a marked up version from 15 years ago that every time we had a state statute update, we would update it. But this is just a complete rewrite. Give you guys a month. I'll bring it back next month.
Okay.
If you need to meet with me and go over anything, I would schedule it with Chad and myself, just because he's the one that's been reviewing this the most. No questions on that. CTC update. I gave a presentation at the request of the superintendent and the CTC director to the school board at one of their workshops of where we were with the process. I floated the idea of the MOU so that we're all on the same page, so there were no miscommunications, misunderstandings as we go forward. So we're at 30% schematic design. That's the building you see in front of you. It is a 19,400 square foot building, almost a little over 10,000 in hangar and a little over 9,000 in classroom space. We're looking at about an $8.1 million total project. So we're currently, we have a $3 million grant that had $3 million in matching funds. So a $6 million grant. That would add $3 million to that 8.1. That's the infrastructure that we've already built. The pond, the water and sewer stubs that we've done, the ramp that we've built in front of them so they can operate at that facility. That's all rolled into this $3 million grant that we currently have. And the school board had a few comments. I think we've addressed most of them. We're waiting to hear back from them. Hopefully we can get that MOU on next month's agenda for both us and them so that we know where we are, and then hopefully we can move forward. They're doing a campaign to raise private funds. I know we're going to talk about some legislative requests, and I think it's not on the agenda, but I think we're going to add a request for them because they don't qualify for some economic development grants that we do, so it may be easier for us to do it. But I'll talk about that later. But so I think the article in the newspaper, although the article was good, the headlines were bad. We didn't go there asking for money. We went there to basically tell them where we are and what's needed to move forward. So, any questions on that?
Hearing none. Old business? I don't know of any.
No
Anybody
old
got it?
business.
No old business. New business.
So the first item is a lease with Disciples Worldwide Aviation, LLC. We're adding something to the presentation just so you guys can see where we're talking about. So this is the hangar directly south of the, and who's leasing that one? This is Disciples Worldwide. Who's leasing the one to the north? That's one of our old flight schools that's been here forever. Harborside Aviation. So Harborside Aviation's leased the hangar space next to CTC, and then this is the one just to the south of that. They're both about 0.75 acres. They'll be building around 10,000 square foot building with offices and ramp space in front of them. It's a 30-year lease, aircraft storage and maintenance, and it's $18,621.90 with CPI increases every 5 years.
Mr. Chairman, I move approval of, move a motion that the board approve of the ground lease of the parcel at the Punta Gorda Airport to Disciples Worldwide Aviation LLC for the construction of an aircraft storage hangar as presented.
Second.
The chair has a motion and a second to approve the ground lease with Disciples Worldwide Aviation for an aircraft storage hangar and their maintenance of their aircraft, apparently. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Motion carried unanimous.
That was the last of money coming in. The rest are construction projects. So inline baggage, we've been talking about inline baggage for a long time. We had the TSA OTA. The AECOM has completed the design. We put it out to bid. We had some irregularities with one of the bidders. We have worked through that, and we are recommending award to A2 Group for the construction of the inline baggage system. If you'll recall, we approved an FDOT grant last meeting that will be 50% of the non-federal share. It's a almost $21 million construction project. Of that, the big chunk, let's see exactly, $11 million is funded by the TSA, and then the rest of that will be funded to split between us and the DOT. You can see where it's located. It's immediately south of the existing terminal. It will, do we have, yeah, so it will attach to the existing terminal, pick up the bags. They will go through two initial screening systems. If they're rejected, they'll go through hand screening. This will be all automatic. There won't be anyone touching. 90% of the bags go through there. 95% of the bags never get touched by a human, which will speed things up. It'll also increase our gate hold room area, as we'll take back the space that's currently used by TSA for bag screening. It'll also put bag makeup under cover. That's the area where they take the bags, sort them, and put them on the carts to take them to the individual aircraft. Right now that's done outside. The bags are undercover, but the people aren't. This will put it all undercover. And then there's the potential to double the bag makeup area in this design. Total of 3 screening machines. Go to the next slide. You can see how the bottom elevation shows the extension of the building to the south. You can see A and B on the bottom. We're currently building part A.
It takes out, reference for the public, it takes out the old restaurant building.
Does take out the restaurant. It'll go over the creek that's there, and then part B would take out the half of the hangar. So the hangar facility would go away, and we're currently in talks with Allegiant to build a new facility for them.
Could you expand on more detail on exactly who A2 is?
A Squared, they're a contractor, they are actually on our agenda twice. They're a local contractor that, they've been bidding on things here for a long time.
And just for the record, I see that there is a lower bidder, but they were deemed non-responsive, is that correct?
Attorney Carr, you want to?
Yes, there was a concern, as I recall, relative to their DBE compliance, and as a result of that, we felt that, not us, but our consultant, I'm sorry, what was it, consultant? AECom made a determination that they had failed to comply with the DBE, Disadvantaged Business Enterprise. That is necessary because obviously it's a federal contract. The federal government mandates, as they said, TSA is paying for this, or a large portion of it, that we have to meet that federal standard for Disadvantaged Business Enterprise. AECom made the determination, independent of us, that they failed to meet that. There was a number of protests associated with that. We evaluated that. Again, a lot of lawyering up on all sides. And eventually, while the low bidder didn't agree with our position, they decided not to dispute it.
Understood, thank you.
Mr. Chair, I move the board accept and approve allowing the CEO to execute the A Squared, is it A Squared or A2?
A Squared.
A Squared Group construction contract in the amount of $20,852,925. The AECom supplemental agreement in the amount of $1,269,613, and the TSA OTA in the amount of $11,962,841.97 as presented.
I second the motion.
Any further discussion, questions?
So just so that's a contract for $20,852,925,
Right.
a contract for $1,269,613, and then a grant of $11,962,841.97.
Okay. Everybody, I think everybody understands that. You've had it for a while. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carried unanimous. Does that make us broke?
No. So the next project is the award of a contract to AECom, I believe. Is that correct? Sorry. For the construction of the replacement hangar for Building 101. If we could go to the next slide. So Building 101 is the former helicopter hangar, former AeroGuard life flight hangar. It was completely destroyed in Hurricane Ian. It was heavily damaged in Charley. Probably should have been torn down at that point. We rebuilt it. The doors failed a second time. So we're going to take this opportunity to turn it 90 degrees so it faces a taxiway and not a fence, which has always limited its use. We are working on an agreement to move AirTrack into this building temporarily as we have to tear down their main building and reconstruct it. And then they may keep this as the third of their buildings as they're expanding. But that is still in the works. We also have another potential tenant for it. But this is the design contract. This will be paid for out of insurance proceeds. It's a design contract to AECom for $223,543.84. And I'm going to tell our consultants to round to the nearest dollar in the future. Can you do that?
Mr. Chair, I'd like to make a motion.
Okay, Chair.
That board authorizes the CEO to execute a supplemental agreement with AECom in the amount of $223,543.84.
I'll second that, Mr. Chair.
Chair has a motion and second for the AECom on a construct and replacement hangar, Building 101. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Same. Motion carried unanimously.
So taxiway Alpha Charlie. Alpha and Charlie were rehabbed. They were scheduled to be rehabbed in 2004. We had a grant in place. That grant was converted to a rebuild grant after Hurricane Charlie, and then we supplementally got a grant the next year. We rehabbed both of these taxiways. They are on about a 20-year cycle, so they're coming up due for rehabilitation, but at this point, they are not rehabilitatable. So this is a reconstruction project of Alpha to the intersection with Charlie and down to Charlie. And then there, because of FAA changes to the geometry of taxiway intersections with runways, as well as ramp to runway intersections, we are going to be changing the taxiway delta intersection, removing parts of Charlie as it exists today, changing the intersection to a 90-degree and disconnecting it from direct ramp access. So that's the section you see at the bottom of the reconfiguration. This is a design contract this will be a design contract as soon as we negotiate it. This is to award the work to the three that applied. Kimley Horn came out on top with an average score of 97.
Okay.
So our recommendation is we allow us to work out a scope and a fee with Kimley Horn and bring it back next month.
Okay, just a general question for my own information. I could have asked you on a phone call, but on the scoring matrix, I assume these are all done individually. The three of you don't get together in a room and do it the way it's supposed to be. Okay. And this ties back into the purchasing manual, which I noticed, and I can address later. But basically, in the proposed manual, and I think everybody, board members should be aware of this, that in the action by the Board of Commissioners on projects, as I read this thing, it says that we have to approve the contract in order of preference by those that are qualified by the staff. There's no opportunity there to do anything else. Now, what I'm just bringing up, I don't think the board members should be put in a position to automatically say you're going to take the high score. I think there are other considerations in the future. Whether we do it or not, I don't know, but I don't like to see board members' hands tied because of a staff scoring matrix. I mean, there could be some things, board members may want to interview the contractors or engineers.
What section is that in?
Yeah, I've got it here.
You have a section?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I was going to talk to you later about it, but it's in two places. It's on page 22, and then again, it has to do, it's in the same section on design build, same language, which is on page 33, I believe. But, you know, there's that. We might decide we want to interview the firm. I think you need to know, and maybe you guys look at it in your evaluation process. Do they have the capacity to do the work in a timely manner that we want it done? It depends on their workload of the firm. And also there are there's some theories out there that you don't continue working with historically the same people over a long period of time. People tend to get too comfortable. And I understand about, you know, you don't have to redo the drawings and all that, but I think there should be some flexibility in that stuff. And that's just my comments from some historical experience I've had. And we need to think about that.
Mr. Chair, if I may, I think the comfort subject that you're talking about, I think comes out in the wash. If we have a consultant that's doing a bad job, I don't think our review team would score them very high. You know, that's my personal opinion. So I think it pretty much shows on that average score, being on a lot of review teams myself. But what is the text, I guess, that you're having a problem with?
It says, maybe I should refer to our legal counsel on it.
Is it page 32, 33?
22 is on
Page
there. It
22.
says, will take such action as it deems appropriate to approve in order of preference the firms that it deems qualified and capable to provide the blah, blah, blah. And the order of preference is basically decided by staff.
Well, we rank them. I don't think it says you have to accept our rankings.
Yeah.
I read it as that we get to choose in order
the
that
order.
we
Mhm.
decide.
That's the way I read
I
it
hope.
also.
I think it's approved in order of the preference that you're establishing.
Yeah.
Okay. As
Not
long
that's
as,
established by, as I read that.
okay.
But I think that's a really good point, is that, you know, we're not constrained by
No.
internal procedures.
As long as we have
As
the
long as
flex,
we-
as long as we
exactly.
have the flexibility, I didn't want to be,
No, I
see a
agree.
board tied into.
I mean,
Yeah.
that's why on larger projects, we bring them to do presentations. I mean,
Oh, yeah.
I don't think we want a presentation on asphalt. It's just not that exciting.
It's usually black. So,
Well, we hope it's flat.
well, that, I just wanted to bring that,
No, thank you.
since I don't have a degree in law. I mean, a real one.
Okay. An honorary one after all the years.
Yeah, well, been burned enough times. I
I'll
guess.
draw you up one. Great penmanship.
Yeah. Okay, let's see, find my agenda, where are we?
We just need a board approval for us to negotiate scoping
Yeah,
fee.
okay. Chair will entertain a motion to instruct staff to move forward with Kimberly Horn for reconfiguration of taxiway C and D.
Mr. Chair, I make a motion that the board authorize staff to begin development of the scope of work, fee, and schedule with the top-ranked firm, Kinley Horn.
I'll second that, Mr. Chair.
Okay, any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carried unanimously.
All right, next item is our legislative request. If we could bring this up. So as I said earlier, we have 4, now 5 legislative requests. And obviously, these are complex documents that we'll be putting together and submitting to the legislatures, who both our representatives and our congressman or our senator, state senator. This year, we're well positioned with both our state rep and our senator being highly ranked. So I think if there's ever a year to ask, this is it. We did not ask for anything last year, but the Phase 1 roadway is the road going north-south next to the existing ramp. It would feed the 2 hangars that we currently have leases on, and we have 2 potentials for the next one to the south and then the large one. To go further on that, we would need Phase 2, and Phase 2, if we don't get any state money or money from the state, we could do that in pieces as we get users for those areas. The other 2 are very important, as the Air Center has been extremely successful. The ramp is getting very crowded, and we hoped we would have this problem and have to do the expansion. The expansion is in our 27 or 28 CIP, but it looks like at least Phase 1 and probably Phase 2, as these new facilities develop along this apron, need to be constructed sooner. So we're looking at 2 more requests for 1.5 and 3 million for those, and then we'll prioritize Phase 1 of the road and Phase 1 of the apron, and then Phase 2 of both projects. Along with that,
James, is that state or federal?
that's all state money. We're hoping to get it from the Department of Economic Opportunity or from the DOT, hopefully the Department of Economic Opportunity, so we don't make the DOT mad. But you know, it's what we have to do. Additionally, having some conversations, I think we've determined that it may be in the school's best interest for us to go after some state legislation as well as them potentially for the additional funds needed for the CTC facility. If we could also request $5.5 million in state funds for that facility, we would manage the grant and then put it against the construction costs. So those are the 5 projects I would like to start developing to go to the legislative delegation, and I'm not sure if that's been scheduled, but
I'll find out.
yeah, we have talked to our lobbyists, and we know the dates that things are required, and Chad has already started working on the write-ups for these. So if you guys approve them, I'll let him finish.
Jim, you mentioned $5 million for the last item there, the CTC aviation.
Yeah, so the CTC is addition to the 4 that are on there.
Okay.
That was a late thing that came up yesterday, so I just thought I'd bring it up, and if the board approves, we'll pursue those 5 pieces, and then we'll get with the legislative staff and our lobby team, and they'll vet it out. We'll have some meetings with the governor's office, so his office understands them, so they're not vetoed or put on the state turkey list that they do every year.
On the CTC facility in the MOU, are we going to build it? If the money comes, we're going to build it for them.
So the way the MOU is positioned is we're going to build it, and depending on the amount of funding available, they're going to lease it back from us. And if they can get enough funding where there's 0 out of pocket for us, they would lease it as a land lease.
As a land lease. So you got it covered both ways.
Yes.
Okay.
Well, Mr. Chair, I'd like to make a motion that the board authorize staff to focus its legislative agenda on a $7.5 million economic development funding request for Northside infrastructure development at PGD AVX area near the PGD Air Center as presented, and the support of Charlotte County Public Schools in their request for additional state funding.
Clarification, are we going to add the extra 5.5 for CTC in your motion?
So that would be additional to what is in your yellow sheet. That's an additional 5.5 request.
It would be a 0.8.
Okay. So 13 million total.
Okay, so let me amend the motion to 13 million.
Yeah,
So
I'll second.
you want me to just reread it?
Just as a
Okay.
point of clarification, should they be as like individual, are they presented individually to the legislature or as one package?
They're separate requests because they're coming out of different buckets.
So the only reason I'm having clarification is if you're actually making 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 potential requests, and I think you should approve them each as 5 separate and distinct requests as opposed to the package, so that if one is presented and it's rejected, the others remain, the approval.
Sure.
6 separate requests, right?
I have 5. There's 4 that are presented on this sheet and 1 more for the
2, 3,
CTC
4,
development.
5.
I just don't want it to see as a motion that's an aggregate and then
Right.
individual requests. I'd just submit to you, it'd be better to approve them. as
Each individual.
Each one. I don't know that you have to just have a separate motion, but
Right.
as presented, the 4 and the 1 for CDC. Sorry.
That's okay.
Okay, Mr. Andrews would like to try it again.
Sure. Are we going to use the 13 million still? Okay. Board authorize staff to focus its legislative agenda on a $13 million economic development funding request for the Northside infrastructure development at the PGD AVX area near PGD Air Center as presented, and support the Charlotte County Public Schools in their request for an additional state funding.
Need a second?
Second.
Okay. Chair has a motion and a second to approve the Charlotte County Airport Authority legislative development request for the fiscal year 2023-2024.
I have a comment, Mr. Chair.
Any
We have
further
a
discussion?
motion, further
Yeah,
discussion.
Yeah, go ahead.
Jim, what is, and it's not on the screen anymore, but why are we leaving such a big green area right there on the Phase 1 April
I don't think
expansion?
it'll be that, it'll be smaller, it'll be like on the other phase 2. It's
okay.
drain, it's our 1/8-inch storage before
Yeah,
we dump
okay.
into,
I got you.
Okay. Having discussion, Chair will entertain the motion. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carried unanimously. On legislative stuff, what about the AIP program for next year?
Well,
We're going to address that at a later board meeting, or maybe a study session, or
well, we did that in March and we have already moved forward on
the
that.
45 million?
For the terminal?
Terminal expansion.
Yeah, that's why we had to get the design build going, so we could get that preliminary cost. So we could, the NOFO should be available the end of this month. We're hearing, which is a notice of funding opportunity, and then we will be putting together that application based on and we met with Mr. Stubbe and discussed that with him, as well as I have had conversations with Senator Scott.
Okay. Next item, maintenance and operation facility.
Or the 6, I don't have those two, but I'm gonna go from memory. So the 611 building, 611, do we have a picture of that? That is the building that the 207 tenants will be moving into. They've currently moved out of 207. They're moving into the building on the north, or on the AVX ramp temporarily, and then they'll be moving into this building once it's constructed. We have negotiated a change order with Stellar, who is currently building the the box hangars, as well as the T-hangars. They're wrapping those up, and they could jump right back onto this project. Since it's 100% funded by us, we've already selected Stellar Development. I think the opportunity to have them continue is probably in our best interest instead of putting it out to bid. Right now, bids for metal buildings are coming in at crazy amounts. Venice or Naples just rejected all their bids on their new T-hangars, and they're going to go in a different direction. But they've agreed to build it for 3.2, or a little less than 3.25 million. We'd request the board approve a change order for 3.25. That is slightly above the engineer's estimate, not enough to worry about, and slightly below what we were initially thinking it would cost.
The cost per unit compared to the 10, fairly close.
Very close.
There is a little more, there was more site civil work
Yeah.
involved in this. but
Drainage, yeah.
The civil work was already done on the others.
Yeah, we have to pipe some stuff underneath their little, so if you look at it,
Yeah, I
there's
know.
room to park an airplane in front of the hangar where there really isn't on the 10 by 10, the 10. There's a huge swale that runs through there that we'll be piping, as well as some FP&L work. So this will be a little bit bigger civil project, but very significantly close to what the 10 by 10 costs 2 years later.
And as a point of detail, this building actually becomes ours at the termination of the land lease, which I believe is in less than 20 years at this point.
Okay. Chair will entertain a motion to write a change order with Stella on building 6 additional 60 by 60 aircraft storage hangars.
Mr. Chair, I move that the board approve change order number 7 in the amount of not to exceed $3.25 million as presented.
Second?
Chair has a motion to approve change order number 7 to the Stella contract. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor? Aye. All opposed, same sign, motion carried unanimously. Now we can do the maintenance.
Maintenance operation facility. All right, can we go to the next slide? So the maintenance operation facility is desperately needed. Maintenance and facilities have been the poor redheaded stepchild at the airport for many years. They were in what became the Gulf Contours building, then they moved to the mosquito control building that blew down in Hurricane Charlie, then they moved to a building that was used to store furniture. They have been in that building for the last 15 years. It floods every time it rains. They're probably pumping it out as we speak. It is woefully undersized. It does not have any storage. So we've been planning a maintenance building for many years. We have the opportunity now to combine maintenance operations into one facility, move badging. It'll be a really nice facility next to the sheriff's office. They will have direct airside access once the road is complete at Challenger. So we have designed it. We went back with the designers and did a lot of value engineering. We are continuing to value engineer the project, and that's why we're asking the board to approve a contract that's less than the amount in their bid. We value engineered that amount out, and we will continue to do a little bit as we move forward. A Squared was the low bidder, and we'd like approval to move forward with contracts with them for $7.3 million.
Mr. Chair, I move approval allowing the CEO to execute the contract with A Squared Group, Inc. in the amount not to exceed $7.3 million as presented.
Second.
And just for clarification, that is also a 50-50 project with the DOT.
They're aware of the award is going to be less than their base bid at this point.
Yes.
Okay. Not hearing any further discussion, the chair will entertain a motion allowing the CEO to execute a contract with A2 not to exceed $7.3 million for a new maintenance and operations facility. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Same sign opposed. Motion carried unanimously. Okay. Next item. Florida.
So I'll just give you an update. I know Mr. Smith was up earlier talking about the air show. We have a long history with the air show, and we are excited as airport people can be about the next air show. Air show is like a carnival on the airport for 7 days, and it's probably put more man hours into the air show than any other single event. But we have a 5-year agreement, operating agreement with the air show. So this is a kind of a supplement to that. I would like to make sure our next agreement with the air show makes these supplements not necessary, so it incorporates all of this into it. But we have met with them, and we've asked the board what they needed, so everything should be built into this. It's a sponsors agreement. I'd just like to get board approval to sign this and move forward. And
Mr. Chair, I move that the board authorize the CEO to execute the sponsorship agreement for the Florida International Air Show.
And I second that motion.
The chair has a motion and a second to approve the 2023 sponsor agreement with the Florida International Air Show. Any further discussion?
Comment. Mr. Chair, Jim, when is the 5-year operating agreement going to expire?
This is the final year.
Final year? You talked about we wouldn't need this supplement anymore. How would you handle the amount for the in-kind services?
Well, we put the amount of in-kind services in there just as an explanation of
I see.
of it. I think the amount's not as necessary as the agreement that we have in-kind services
Sure.
and what those are.
Very good. Thank you.
No further discussion. All those in favor of approving the agreement with the Florida International Air Show for 2023 signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Same sign opposed, motion carried unanimously. Okay, public comments. Anyone wish to address the board? Don't all rush up here at one time. Okay, seeing no one approaching the board for any public comments, Chair will entertain Commissioners' comments. Kathleen, would you like to start?
Thank you all for being here. I assume that you all got a Chamber of Commerce, the 98th Annual Awards Luncheon bulletin. I hope we can go, because it's a very interesting group of people, helpful to us. And just have a great rest of your summer. It is summer, isn't it?
It is summer. Just on the county chamber, if you guys want to go, just go and do your own RSVP and pay with your credit cards. And then just let Kaylee and Kelly know that you're going. And on the Punta Gorda chamber, let Kaylee know
Oh, I
that
didn't
she will.
get that.
Well, we've already sent that, they sent that
okay.
out a couple of months ago. We are up for an award at Punta Gorda Chamber, so we'd like to have as many people as possible. I'm out of town.
I think I'm out of town too.
When is it? I don't remember.
The 15th?
September 16th on a Saturday night
September 16th? Oh, right, the week before?
at the Isles Yacht Club, and that's the one we're up for an award for. And then the Charlotte County Chamber is the one that you have that is a lunch. So what we're saying is for the Punta Gorda Chamber, Saturday, the 16th, we want to organize a table since we're up for an award. But for the Charlotte County Chamber lunch, you can purchase your own ticket on your airport credit card as a business support expense.
Thank you.
Mr. Hurston?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. It is good to see Commissioner Doherty in the audience. I think he's celebrating his 50th year anniversary. He started right here as a commercial airline pilot, right here at the airport. But it's good to see some of our great engineers. I see Kimley Horn out there and 2 other firms here. It's always good to see you guys. But Jim, I just want to make one point. I've been approached by a group right in here about the possibility of this gate right there at the end of taxiway B, the possibility of working that to get a larger gate such that, these guys can get larger jets over there in the air park. So
I don't know why they would approach you.
Well,
It is a 50-year agreement, and the gate size was approved by the FAA.
okay.
That's a
Opening
real-
that up to the FAA, we just dealt with a Part 16 complaint about them. I would suggest against it, but,
I'm not sure they built the gate, did they, right there at that location?
oh yes, there's a
Is
gate,
it built?
128-foot gate, and that's
Okay.
exactly what it says in their agreement with the airport.
Okay. I'm not sure anybody measured it from the people that approached me, but I just wanted to bring it to everybody's attention. Thank you.
Mrs. Oliver?
Oh, thank you. Yes, I just want to congratulate all of the employees on their great achievements and our tower. That's awesome. We're so excited for you guys. That's amazing. Huge accomplishment. And I want to say thank you to the International Air Show group. You guys are the best. You all run such a great operation, and it is such a great event for our entire community. And so thank you for all of your man hours that you guys put in. It's awesome. Thanks.
Mr. Andrews?
I'd like to thank everyone for being here and just tag on to what Commissioner Oliver said. One thing that amazes me when I look at everything that we just passed today, especially on the expansion of the airport, when I first came here, we had the one terminal. What was it, a $4 million terminal?
Yep.
That was,
Yep.
and looking at
Amazing.
where we've grown to and what we've become, it's really
Amazing.
phenomenal.
Yeah.
So that's all I have to say. It's
I had
just,
the same thoughts.
Yeah.
All right.
Amazing.
I want to thank everybody for coming. I want to thank you that are listening on TV for taking the time to listen to all the airport activities. We're in a very growth method, and we're seem to be accepted by the public for what's going on here and with our partner with the Allegiant Airlines. So with that, I'll adjourn the meeting.